The Shining by Stanley Kubrick. Uh, Basically, it's a very unconventional horror film. It was unlike anything that came out at the time, and although nobody would admit this these days, but when that movie came out, everybody hated it. They thought it was crap, complete crap. They didn't like it. There was no slasher in it. There was no uh, it just didn't have the conventions of what the horror films were about at the time, and now I think it's recognized for what it's worth. It's a very formalistic movie. It's very multi-leveled. It's it's kind of a Freudian film in one sense, if you look at it, because there's only three characters and a mother, a father, and their little boy, and there's a lot of I think there's a lot of Oedipal feelings from Danny towards his father, although it's obviously masked as they usually do in cinema, um, which makes it art. But The Shining, it was a great film for technologically displaying the fact that it was the first horror film where every single thing in that movie was made to look ominous. Like you didn't know those tracking shots. You didn't know what was going to happen at the end of the hall when the little boy gets to the end of the hall on his big wheel. You didn't know. You didn't know it was going to be around the bends in the hallway. Um, the hallway, obviously a Freudian symbol. Uh, Now, on a critical level, um, it although it was technically, I think the quote in Leonard Maltin's guide is technically stunning, an overused phrase these days, by the way. But it just goes to show you how cinema is also made from revolutions in film equipment, because most people that worked on The Shining claim that those tracking shots were born out of Stanley Kubrick's fascination with a new toy, which was the Steadicam at the time. But that said, look at the film he created out of it. It was just marvelous. The tracking shots from the hallway to that maze that the film climaxes in, and it was one of the first horror films. It didn't. Let's face it. It doesn't make any sense. The whole movie doesn't even make any sense unless you psychoanalyze it, which is really bad for art to psychoanalyze anything. You should just let it be. The movie makes literally no sense whatsoever, a lot of it. It contradicts itself at many different turns. It, it, all these things that make it, in my mind, a bad film, also make it a great film, because it just shed the conventions of what a horror film could be. It's just one of those movies that had kind of what you might call a quiet revolution on other films, whereas, like I said, nobody liked it when it first came out. But like Nietzsche said, he said that all things must first wear monstrous masks before inscribing themselves on the hearts of humanity. So that's, and a lot of films are like that too. And horror films too. Um, it's a rare horror film that actually makes a contribution to the real phenomena of the occult. You see what I'm saying? Like most films show your basic witchcraft and things like that, but very few films actually contribute to the mythology, not only of cinema, which then transpose themselves to the real world of the occult. It's amazing. Like three important contributions, the three most important cinematic contributions to the occult are Dario Argento's Three Mothers, uh, Sam Raimi's Kandarian Demons, and Clive Barker's Cenobites. Um, the reason I say this is because, like, in the occult circles, which I'm a little bit privy to, they these things are talked about as though they were real. You know, that's the effect that cinema can have on real life. Like, where does cinema end and real life begin? There doesn't seem to be any demarcation line anymore. Uh,